Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Big Jiu-Jitsu Show. Don't forget to check out our sponsors, Trap Girl Soap Company. Right now, the Grappling is Not a Crime shirt. Pre-orders out. I think he just made all of them, so you should probably buy one. They are pretty amazing. Also check out our other sponsors, Tape Armor and Rolls Gear, and you can find all of our old episodes at bjjshow.com. I'm Rob, and we had Joe's cousin, who is a local musician out here. We talked a bit about martial arts, law enforcement, music, and he played a couple songs for us as well. It was absolutely amazing. I had a great time on this podcast, or this episode of the podcast. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and don't forget to give us a like, or review us, subscribe to us, tell your friends about us, buy a shirt, do whatever, man. Help us out. And hope you guys like this episode. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Big Jiu-Jitsu Show. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. And before we even get started, have our special guest, Wyatt Crabtree, also known as Joe's cousin. He's going to play us a little music before we do all the full intros. So, Wyatt, go. Just do it, man. I'm excited for this.
Right on. Thanks for having me. One morning while making rounds, I took a shot of cocaine. I shot my woman down. Went back home and I went to bed here. I stuck that loving 44 beneath my head. Got up next morning, I grabbed that gun. I took a shot of cocaine. Away I run. Been a good run, but I run too slow. They overtook me down in Juarez, Mexico. Yelling in the hot toy, taking the pill. It walked the sheriff from Jericho Hill. He said, "Hey, Willie Lee, your name is not Jack Brown. You're the dirty ass who shot your woman down." Oh yes, my name is Willie Lee. If you got a warrant, just bring it to me. I shot her down, but she made me slow. Well, I'm on her daddy, but she had my boy. Yeah, when I was arrested, I was dressed in black. They put me on a train and they took me back. Had no friend wanna know my man. Well, it's like I got a carcass in that county jail. Well, the next morning at 9:30, I saw a sheriff walking down the line. They called as he cleared his. Said, "Come on, dirty hack, do that district court." To that courtroom, my trial began, where I was held by 12 honest men. Just before that jury started, we all saw that dirty judge missed the lookup. In about 5 minutes, in walked the man, holding a verdict in his right hand. That verdict he read in the first division. Well, Lordy, have mercy on me. The judge smiled, he picked up his pen. 99 years in that pen, 99 years underneath that. Well, our people get the day, shot that bad bitch down. Come on, you people, listen up to me. Lay off that whiskey and that cocaine.
Nice.
Thank you.
Nice, man. Appreciate that.
Thank you so much for having me. A little bit unplugged. I normally play with a full drum kit with my feet and everything else, but
Holy shit.
Here, part of the Big Jiu-Jitsu Show. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely, man. So before we get too far into it, I'm Rob.
I'm Randy.
And like we said, this is another episode of the Big Jiu-Jitsu Show. We got Wyatt Crabtree, better known as Joe's cousin, playing with us and talking a little bit about martial arts. And I'm actually really interested about this whole one-man band thingy. And because I could barely tie my shoes and chew gum at this point, outside of doing scissor sweeps and stuff like that. So how'd you get started in music, man?
Well, so I could never get scissor sweeps down. Okay. And my guard game is horrible. So, so anybody that can do that could do this. I kind of grew up with a guitar in my hand, and I always played. My dad had a guitar, and always played, and started out playing drums when I was a middle schooler, and got better at guitar than I was at drums eventually. And one day I was just playing some music, and I started stomping on a foot drum to keep a beat. And I said, hey, I could do this. And so I started just playing as a one-man band, and it kind of took off. And before this quarantine, I was playing out at a lot of different places. And you'd be surprised how easy it is once you can figure it out. It's like anything else, but it's a lot of fun. And I have zero band drama because I play by myself. So
that's perfect. So now martial arts, you said, so since you mentioned foot or scissor sweeps and whatnot, how'd you get into martial arts? How'd you get into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu?
Well, I need to clarify, I don't do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu now. I'm that guy that did it and, quit. So I don't want to mislead anybody. But I started out as a young man, as a kid, doing Kagyu Kimbo out in California. Some people call it Hawaiian Kimbo. And got pretty heavily involved in that growing up. And then off and on and through my 20s and 30s, just doing different things. Did a little bit of Muay Thai, a little bit of Judo. And I did Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and achieved the massive rank of white belt. I'm very proud of that. And I did that for a little while too, and ended up, this is everybody's excuse, but I had some injuries over the years, and it just got to where it became one of those things that I just stopped doing. But I still have a great love for it, and have a lot of respect for people that do it, love to watch it, and I just totally think it's an amazing art.
Yeah, and then you were in the military as well. Right?
I was in the military. I was in the Army for just under 5 years. I was in the 82nd Airborne. I was a parachute rigger, and then I was a Coast Guardsman for 20 years, active and reserve throughout that time, doing maritime law enforcement. And I don't usually, and I'm not going to advertise completely what I do on this, but this is a different audience than mine. I will tell you now, I work with Randy. And so whatever anybody knows about Randy, that's what you know about me.
All jiu-jitsu, right?
What's that?
Just jiu-jitsu. That's
Just
all.
jiu-jitsu. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what we do. Dang right.
That's awesome, man. So, we had, what was it? I don't discriminate against martial arts. We always talk about like Hawaiian Kempo as well. Cause wasn't Chuck Liddell, that's kind of like what he was doing
Yes.
as well, right?
Yes.
Now,
yeah, he was. And during the time I was doing it, it hadn't evolved as well as it has today. Today there's a lot more grappling involved in it, and a lot more of the things. There was a little bit in those days, but not nearly as much.
Not too bad, but a lot of striking. So with the striking that you did and your Hawaiian Kempo, do you see still, like, I know Chuck Liddell's like we bring him up a lot because he was one of the big main guys that was just like, hey, I'm going to use this style of martial arts and I'm going to outstrike people. And he had a really good grappling defense, takedown defense, stuff like that. How do you feel doing more of a striking art than a grappling art with I guess I'm getting beat up a little bit from it.
Well, at 46 years old, I would rather do a grappling art any day of the week. Because you can lick your wounds off the mat and go home. It's a whole lot different than a striking art. To tell you the truth, today I prefer a grappling art much to a striking art. It's good to know for anybody, no matter what you're doing, it's good to know some strike defense and some strike offense. I think one of the best things any jiu-jitsu practitioner, and forgive me if I step on any toes, but one of the best things anybody can do in regard to striking is learn a little bit about boxing. Just learn some basic footwork and some basic hand work and some other things to defend against that heavy striker, because all they have to do is get lucky once, and that's a bad day. But I much prefer grappling, especially in today's world. When your ultimate goal is to get away from somebody or to stop an assault or to do something like that. I don't want to stand there. I'm short. I'm 5'7". I don't want to stand there and duke it out with somebody.
Well, unless you're fighting like creepy Uncle Joe, it's not going to start out as a grappling match, right? It's going to start out probably as a striking match.
It'll start out as a striking match, but I think he who has a good strike defense and a strong takedown will win the day.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And I think boxing is a solid foundation for any self-defense system.
I
I've
do
always
too.
said it when you look at like combatives, whether you're talking about military or law enforcement, any mixture of boxing and wrestling, or boxing and jiu-jitsu, or kickboxing and jiu-jitsu, any kind of striking base with grappling as being kind of the intensive part of it is the formula for success in terms of combatives. But you do have to have that striking element in boxing. Let's face it, you're never going to be able to find a harder puncher than a boxer.
Absolutely.
And when you talk about kicks, in my opinion, kicks are great. But when you're talking about for self-defense or for a combative system, the kicks need to be kept at a lower level, because the higher you raise your legs, the more you're compromising balance, the more you're compromising power. And if you're compromising power, then how efficient is that? So boxing, you're staying rooted to the ground, you're staying balanced, you can generate a lot of force, you can close distance with it, and then that lends itself better to the grappling system. And so I love Muay Thai. I coach kickboxing, I train in Muay Thai, obviously I do jiu-jitsu, but I think that if I was going to take somebody that said, hey, I only want this for self-defense, that's all I want it for, I'm going to give them boxing and jiu-jitsu, or boxing and wrestling, and that's it.
Absolutely.
No,
I agree.
I was gonna say, because like I get to be that guy again, be like, coming from a Taekwondo background originally, doing the whole high kick thing, like that's I think it's good for getting used to kicking, but at the same time, that there's a very steep price you're going to pay if you're like, oh, let me defend myself and try to kick this dude right in the face.
Yeah.
As many, I guess, world star hip hop videos have shown us that
Yeah.
generally getting a little too fancy with your fighting gets you put to sleep pretty quickly.
But I definitely envy the flexibility of a Taekwondo guy.
Oh yeah.
It's helped in jiu-jitsu. I'll say that's probably one of the good carryovers I've gotten from it. It's like the whole putting the foot on my face type thing and getting the weird looks from it, but that's
Sure.
about it.
Well, and then I think the part of Muay Thai that maybe adds an exception to what I was talking about is the clinch work and the elbows and knees, because those are important things to add to your arsenal too. But Taekwondo, the other thing the thing about Taekwondo is you have two different sides of it. So I can't remember the other federation, but there's WTF,
Yeah.
which is like the Olympic style Taekwondo, right? And then there's one that starts with an I think.
ITF.
ITF. Geez, I should have known that then. WTF and ITF. It makes sense. But to me, WTF has always been more impressive in terms of their quality of movement and their action. So, I think that you got to look at that too. The different types of Taekwondo, but every style is great for its own particular purpose. I just personally feel like Taekwondo and even grappling arts have it, like Aikido, right? To me, Aikido is the Taekwondo of grappling in terms of there's very little that's great about it in terms of self-defense, right?
Yeah.
But they have like the skirts they wear. Those are kind of cute.
The Hakamas, yeah, man. Old Sensei Seagal using those, man. Sorry. I got a neighbor who thinks that his carburetor's broken like every 2 days, so he like fucking retunes it. And I don't know if you heard him, but he just fucking peeled off like it was gone in 60 seconds out here. That's why I'm like shaking my head, like putting my hand up. I'm like, dude, I'm trying to record a podcast here. Just every day it sounds like this rough ass idling Camaro. And I'm just like, bro, fucking just leave it. It was running fine when you got it.
I thought that might have been one of Joe's cousins over there.
That's right. Randy's seen my truck. He knows.
Oh, nice. What do you got, man?
I've got a 66 Chevy C10.
Oh shit, that's
It's all
nice, dude.
ratted out, patinaed, stainless steel, just rusted out. I love it.
Now, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I just saw it the other day. I love that truck, man. I love it. Now you got the little rooster on there. I saw too.
Got my little rooster on it. Yep, I love that truck.
That is awesome. So, I guess, if you go to Fayetteville, you kind of stay in Fayetteville with the Army. I understand that. I've somehow avoided that. I did 10 years active and just never I never jumped out of an airplane either, because I don't know if you call me dumb or smart or cowardly, whatever you want to call it. But I know with music, have you gotten to travel a good bit and go around and do shows? And
I've gotten to travel within the state of North Carolina a good amount.
Nice.
I live in the Raleigh area, and prior to the COVID, I played here a lot, but I played as far as a city called, for those listening, a city called Brevard, which is on the far western end of North Carolina. It's about a 5-hour drive from Raleigh. And then as far east as the coast, pretty close to the coast, and north a little ways. I play all over the state. I haven't played out of state yet, but play all over the state.
Well, I mean, the state in itself is huge. Well, you got like three different types of terrain out here, pretty much.
Oh yeah, it's pretty good size. It's a nice state. I love North Carolina.
And then, how do you define your style? I love it. The country rock kind of feel.
Rockabilly, honky tonk, bar drinking, whiskey drinking music, I guess.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, he's. I've seen him perform live, and he does regular shows. So you do shows on Facebook. What do you call it? You got a name for it the other day. I can't remember what.
I've been calling them something different each time. But, live from the garage or the 2020 garage tour. I'll plug everything in.
Yes.
Set the iPhone up and do an online show just out of boredom and to try to stay relevant too, like anything. We've all got to kind of keep our hand in our craft during this time. I know for Randy especially, and I'm sure you not being able to get on the mat with somebody else is pretty rough right now. I can only imagine.
Yeah, I'm honestly getting to the point where I'm getting ready just to say, fuck all this. I'm going to start rolling again. I'm just going to find my select group and start getting after it. But, I don't know. It's hard. My dad got it and had it pretty bad. So I respect the virus, but
sure,
man, his perishable skills are really starting to perish at this point.
Sure.
So, I don't know. But,
I would say I sat around the house in my gi the other day and I forgot how to tie my belt. So I'm kind of fucked.
Yeah. I mean, that's cool that you do that though. You put them on Facebook. I mean, I enjoy it. I look forward to the shows because it just kind of, with everything going on right now, it feels like it kind of keeps us more in touch, being able to all get on there, and people will comment on the videos on the feed, and he'll play songs sometimes that people have requested. I know he did a Foo Fighters song for me a couple of shows ago because I'm a diehard Foo Fighters guy. So I love the music, I love the sound, and definitely got to check you out live when you start performing at bars again too. Because
thank you.
It's a great show. And then you have, what was that other guitar? Sometimes you use a different type of guitar.
I usually play an orange guitar. The big orange one, right?
No, there's a small one that you've used. It has a different sound to it completely. Is it like a box?
Oh, the cigar box guitar.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I've got a guitar. It's made out of a cigar box, and it's only got 4 strings. And anybody listening right now, if you don't know how to play a guitar, if you can get a hold of a cigar box guitar, or if you're really bored during quarantine, there's instructions on YouTube how to make them. And instead of having 6 strings like a regular guitar, it's got 4. You tune it into an open tuning, so you don't even have to know how to play it. And you just put a slide on your finger, old medicine bottle, or some people use a ratchet or a socket rather, and you can just slide up and down the neck and make those old slide guitar sounds. It's really cool, shit. And you don't have to know anything about how to play to make really cool music out of that. I've made 3 or 4 of them, but that one I bought at the flea market actually, and it's pretty nice. I'm very happy with it.
I think it's got a really, really cool sound to it.
Yeah, it's gnarly.
That's really damn awesome, actually. You talking about like the Raleigh flea market?
Yeah.
Dude, that thing's awesome. That thing's wild too, man.
I know. I wonder if they even have it right now with everything, or hopefully they'll have it soon.
Yeah.
Market people are immune already.
Right.
Yeah. You're fucking with my flea market time. Honestly. It's like, what's going on?
Let's open it up and get to the flea market. I'm tired of waiting around.
I never went to the Raleigh flea market.
Oh, it's wild, man. Like it's pretty much almost the size of the state fair, but not really. It's like it's all in the fucking Dorton Arena area, and because they have like booths already set up in there too. So like you have this old retro video game booth. I was like looking through all the games or comics and action figures. It's like, then of course like clothes and military surplus gear. It's an experience, man.
There's a chiropractor now that sets up a trailer there, $20.
What?
I'm a little worried about that, but they got everything there. He probably lost his medical license.
Yeah, he's just doing what he can, man. He's just doing what he can.
We've all got to hustle, right?
I feel like that's like the type of story where you get the was it the doctors in like the John Wick universe or whatever, where it's like, hey, don't say anything, but I'm gonna sew you up while I'm like half drunk.
Right.
For like $50. I'll remove
Right.
this bullet. Yeah, I feel like there might be like a cool story behind there, like some underground shit we don't know about going on in Raleigh.
Sounds like a song, Flea Market Chiropractor. Maybe I'll have to write one.
That would be awesome. I want to hear that song.
Oh, I'm in. I'm absolutely in on that one. Um, so playing music, doing your martial arts. How do you find balancing life with all that when you're doing all these things? Because now, what's funny is I was actually talking to somebody about this earlier too, is because I watched Pick It Up, or it's a documentary about ska in the '90s, and I was laughing. I was like, "Oh, I was in a ska band," and just like how we had that really brief, like 5-year window of it being like cool, and then it became really uncool. And just like I was going to college and trying to play shows at the same time, and that in itself was kind of a juggle. But now doing what you're doing with Randy and play music and doing some other extracurricular activities, how do you find time to juggle all that?
I think you have to make time to juggle it, whatever it is you do, and whatever your profession is. Whether you're a doctor, lawyer, airline pilot, law enforcement officer, mechanic, you can't be your job. Uh, you'll go crazy if you do, and so you have to have something else that you love and that you're passionate about. For me, it's this music. Randy, I know him very well, and he lives for martial arts, and I think people that have something to do, whether it's that or gardening or just about anything, I think you have to make time for that, because if you don't, you'll become your profession, and when your profession time ends, you'll have nothing. And so I think it's very important for all of us to have that creative outlet, or that physical outlet, or some sort of outlet to express what we love to do.
I like it.
The samurai were big believers in that too. I can't remember the exact quote from Musashi in the Book of Five Rings, but he talks about that, how you need to basically be a master of the art of pen and sword, I believe is kind of paraphrasing what he said, but basically that you need to be, the samurais were big on obviously being masters of combat and of warfare, but they also had an art that they were masters of on the side, whether that was poetry, calligraphy, art, music. They had something else that they balanced their warrior lifestyle with.
Absolutely.
So
I
why
told
it's
my
always
boy, I'm sorry.
go ahead. I was gonna say why it's always been the modern representation of a samurai, in my opinion, in terms of how he balances his warrior lifestyle. So
You're so kind, Randy. Well, I told my boys, as they grew up and they turned 19 and 17 this week, wanted them to be a warrior, a scholar, an athlete, a philosopher, and an artist. And that to me makes a man. And you don't have to be an artist like that paints masterpieces or writes poetry. There's all sorts of art. There's all sorts of athletics. There's all sorts of scholarly pursuits. You study stoicism. It's good to have something that makes us a complete package.
absolutely.
And in the martial arts world, I think if you look at some of the greats out there, there's so many different pieces to them, because you can take a lot of people and just teach them how to fight.
Mm-hmm.
But a true master, a true martial artist has so many other pieces that makes them who and what they are.
Absolutely.
Do you feel that that's something that we're kind of maybe straying away from, as far as professional fighting, as I guess as jiu-jitsu kind of moves up in a little more of I guess maybe not so much mainstream, but more recognized matches, competitions, professional level stuff? Or is that something we're missing out on, that we're more focused maybe on like the money making of it, and the pomp and circumstance, and the showmanship, as opposed to it still being a core martial art that we use to defend ourselves or make ourselves better?
I think it's still a core martial art. You're going to have these top level athletes that are training for that day where they can step into a high paid promotion and make money as a professional athlete. You're always going to have that, and you need that. That's a completely different thing. But the majority of everybody else is sweating it out on the mat, and they're doing it because they love it. And I think we've strayed in martial arts in general from some of the Eastern practices that were prevalent in the 70s and 80s during the Mr. Miyagi and Karate Kid era. I think we're not as prevalent on that, but I also think we're adapting into what a modern warrior is.
So no, I think there's still a lot of that out there, and I think it's a good thing the way it is right now.
Well, that's good to know. I mean, that's something that I do kind of fear about is just kind of, like you said, you can teach anybody how to fight, but you can teach them, you need to teach them to be a martial artist as well.
Yes.
I think a lot of people miss out on, I think martial arts, that term has kind of become just a name, a title that people don't really think about what that means anymore. You know what I mean? So martial arts, people just assume they just have this image in their head of what martial arts is. Oh, they think of jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, boxing, kickboxing, taekwondo, whatever. But they don't think about what the term means, martial art. They don't think about that. Because martial arts is what the way Bruce Lee would say it is the truest form of self-expression, right? And so everybody, it is an art. You're the paintbrush though. As the practitioner, you're the paintbrush, and the canvas is the way that you display your game. And so, I fight different than Wyatt does, than Rob does, and that's a representation of me as a person, how I apply my skills. Am I very mobile and aggressive and going from this position to that position really fast, where Rob is going to be more slow and methodical, kind of like a boa constrictor? You know what I mean? That's your self-expression of who you are as a human being. And I think that martial arts can be both. It can be the pursuit of warriorship, but it can also be your art. It can be your painting, your music, your calligraphy. It's all on how you do it. And I think where people are losing sight is if you look at the competitive side of jiu-jitsu, the sport jiu-jitsu game. I think that in some respects, the higher level guys are losing sight of that. They're losing sight of the art form part of martial arts. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So
I'd agree with that in a bit. I think it's more or less of the what was it, the whole people getting a little too outside their lane. Maybe like we said before, like just because you have a black belt and a martial arts style doesn't make you a black belt at everything.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Which I think some people maybe kind of need to like dial it back a little bit. And I mean, I understand giving respect to martial arts, absolutely okay with that. Bowing, calling people by the proper title, sir, ma'am, all that good stuff. And when you get to the point where it's like a little cult like, to unquestioning about like, sensei so and so was like, hey man, don't do this, and then you catch him like beating hookers to death in like a back alley or something. Like, I mean, like that's a very extreme case. I'm not saying that it's ever happened to me or I've ever experienced that, but it's still like, do as I say, not as I do type situation.
On that same discussion, because Wyatt, we had this on another previous episode. We talked about kind of not the killing of hookers. We didn't talk about that. It's never been a thing.
Well, I just sang a song about it, so.
Yeah. But what's your opinion, Wyatt, on if you see, let's say you're training and in Kempo and you see your sensei at the grocery store, do you call him sensei at the grocery store, or do you just call him Rob?
I would call him. We called him professor or chief for chief instructor, but I would call them by their title.
Okay. Even out in public, or?
Yeah.
Okay. Because that was kind of where we were sort of divided on that. Is there are schools in jiu-jitsu and that it's almost like a cult-like following, and there's a balance on that equation, but
But I also think that depends on your relationship with them.
Yeah.
In my military days, if I saw a higher ranking person, but I had a relationship with them, a friendship with them, I saw them at the grocery store, I might call them by their name.
Right.
So I think it depends on your relationship with them. If you have a more formal relationship, then you're going to call them by their title. And if you also have a friendship outside of the dojo or the mat, then you'll probably call them by their name.
Right. Like I know my kung fu days, didn't matter if I was talking to the guy on the phone, if I saw him at the store, if I saw him at the studio, I had to call him Sifu all the time.
Mm-hmm.
All the time, no matter what. That was like his name to me,
Yeah.
Whereas if I run into somebody out in public and they try calling me coach, it's like, no, I'm just Randy. Just
right.
Don't worry about it. But I think,
I'll say for me, like, because I don't, it still feels weird having that title. Aaron, one of my old training partners, because I was coaching, he would call me coach from time to time. I'm like, bro, I don't know, man. He's like, you're a brown belt, you're a coach. I'm like, it still kind of weirds me out, but like, I'll still be in contact with people that I did Taekwondo with. And like, an example, I'm going shooting with a couple of them on Monday. And I'll still call him sir, or like, hey, chief, master, whatever, just out of respect. Cause like you said, that's how I've known him. Not like, what's up, Billy? Yeah, I don't train with you anymore. So you're Billy now. But also, I think it'd be kind of a dick move to do in front of his students. Be like, nah, this guy ain't him. He's Billy. Call his
Yeah.
ass Billy.
On that same note too, Wyatt is actually a phenomenal shooter. He's
Ooh,
a good shooting guru as well, in addition with his military background and things. And I've learned a lot from him in regards to tactics and stuff. So, what's kind of your opinion on firearms and the similarities and parallels between that and martial arts?
Well, first off, on firearms, and for anybody that's a concealed carry person or anybody that carries concealed anyway, I've heard so many people that have said, I don't need to learn fill in the blank boxing, jujitsu, judo, taekwondo, kung fu, because I've got my gun.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's shit. Okay. That's absolute shit. Because first off, what are you going to do? Shoot a guy for calling you an asshole at a bar? I hope not.
Right.
But then the second thing is, what are you going to do if they're able to get that gun away from you, or if they can kick your ass before you can get your gun out? So shooting is a great sport. It's a great method of defense. It's a great skill set. Firearms are a phenomenal tool. But I think anybody that carries firearms when they're out and about in the public, I'm of the belief personally that you also have an obligation to everybody around you to know how to protect yourself and protect that firearm with more than just that gun. You need to know some basic blocks and some basic parries and movements to get away so that you don't have to use that gun, because that is an awful thing to have to pull a gun on and shoot somebody. And one difference between firearm self-defense and say a striking art or a grappling art, one big difference between those two is if I'm throwing a punch at Randy and I miss Randy, I missed Randy. If I take a shot and miss, I may hit somebody else, and that's very deadly. And so while I think it's good to know, and I'm a big Second Amendment supporter, big believer in carrying firearms, I think that with those rights come those responsibilities as well.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I agree 100% on that. And I mean, this is coming from a guy who's never done or experienced law enforcement. So I can only imagine the headache some of the law enforcement officers out there have to deal with. The guys like that are like, oh, dude, I just solved the problem. I just pull this out and the fucking problem goes away. Right. Like that's not the escalation you want to do. And then I think for me, at least looking at it, at least from my perspective, looking at it like a martial art, you still got to practice with it.
Yeah, right.
Like you don't just get the certificate saying you're good to carry your gun under, carry it concealed and then never practice with it. Never practice like drawing with it. Might like seeing guys draw and drop it. Like, oh, that's not good. What happens then?
Right.
Yeah, it definitely is one of those things too, where I mean, like it was brought up, if you don't have a skill set to retain your weapon, then you're kind of doing yourself a disservice, because 90% of the time, it seems like when these people end up drawing a weapon in self-defense, that person that they're defending themselves from is within their workspace. It's very close to them. And so if you don't have that skill set to defend that weapon, it's very easily going to become that person's weapon to use against you.
Absolutely.
And so to be a well-rounded firearms aficionado or a concealed carry person, I feel like it definitely is an obligation that you have some semblance of self-defense skills.
I 100% agree. Randy and I did some work on the mat. It's been a little while ago now, but we were more wanting to see. It was okay. Let's see what happens when we get this together and see how it goes. And I think that's a good thing to do too. Even if you're not a jiu-jitsu practitioner, just to get with somebody, can you draw in that close quarter? Are you able to get your gun out? Because if you can't, then don't.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we also talked about how to take a gun away from somebody in that close quarters combat situation. If I see him reaching for his waistband to draw, I close distance and we're fighting now over that gun. Mm-hmm. It was informative from two different angles. Number one, if you're the person trying to defend against an armed suspect, but number two, if you're trying to retain your weapon against somebody taking it. Because what we found is that unless you go 2-to-1 on that weapon draw hand, you're screwed. Like, you're completely fucked. They're going to get that gun out and they're going to put it towards you and shoot you every single time. And it was interesting to take, the two worlds and combine them together and test something in a drill like that, and just say, let's just see what happens. Like if I lose and he's able to get a shot on me, obviously, if you're listening, we were not using live firearms. I mean,
No, we're not.
you shouldn't have to put that out there, but you do nowadays, right? I mean, we were not using a live firearm. We had training weapons that we were using, blue guns, but you can also completely unarm your gun, run a zip tie through the barrel, and run it that way, so you know it can't go bang. But we were doing this and literally fighting each other over this gun. And we didn't hit each other hard or anything like that because we're not gonna hurt each other. But you could see where where it would work and where it wouldn't, and you found out very quickly what worked and what didn't. And it's really important. And then the other thing, I put this on Facebook the other day. I'm gonna see if it'll show up on the screen. But there's a really easy firearms test for our listeners. And if you can't pass this test, then you shouldn't carry a weapon. And then you also should not be commenting on gun control either. You shouldn't have an opinion either way until you figure this out and get some training. Doesn't mean never, but it just means obviously you're uneducated about firearms, right? So you can see this. Can you see it?
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah. So our listeners, if you can't figure out what's wrong with this picture, okay, there's a couple things wrong with the picture, as a matter of fact. Then don't own a gun and until you get training, until you get knowledge, and then don't even go on Facebook and comment on gun control either because you don't know shit. Just putting it out there.
It's because he has 3 fingers, all right?
That's what I was going with. No fingernails. It's kind of creepy.
Oh, gross, man. Just one big squishy, like appendage sticking out of your hand. That's nasty. That's what's wrong with that picture. It's gross.
Yeah, you're right. I think, well, the yellow skin is a little concerning too. You might want to.
Everybody's all. Yeah, there you go. I was gonna say, like, what was it in The Simpsons? Everybody in like Springfield in the U.S. is yellow, but then everybody in like Japan, and I think it was to like avoid them being like being bad, was like actual flesh colored.
Right.
I thought that was kind of funny, but
Yeah.
Oh man. So
yeah, I mean, I think that what I love about this podcast too, one of the reasons why I want to do it is because I feel like we talk about mixed martial arts, we talk about a lot of different things, and I feel like why it embodies on the musician side the versatility. I feel like a lot of times people feel like they have to be a master of just one thing, and they always cite that quote. What is it saying? Jack of all trades, master of none. Right.
Right.
There's more to that quote. It doesn't end there. People use it incorrectly. I'll pull it up real quick because I just forgot it while I'm talking. I had this whole thing planned. I was gonna be super smooth and slick. But when you're live, well, I can attest to this. Shit happens sometimes, and you gotta bullshit your way through it.
Fuck it, we'll do it live, man.
Right.
Yeah. But that's not the full quote. So it says, Jack of all trades, master of none, better than a master of one, is the full quote. Meaning that you're better to be really good at a myriad of things as opposed to just focusing everything you have on just one thing. Because that's like what we've been talking about this entire time is, if you're a warrior, you want to dabble in art. What I love about Wyatt as a musician and being the Joe's Cousin one-man band is that he does 4 different things simultaneously at a high level and makes this beautiful thing. And I feel like that's what more people need to do in their lives as a martial artist, as a human being. Train in more than one martial art style. Yeah, you can be really good at more than just one thing. And it's important that you are. And then also dabble in things outside the dojo, right? And become really good at those too, because we have a living example right here in front of us that you can do about 6 different things at once and still be really good at it. So.
Very cool. I like it. So before we head out, Wyatt, would you mind playing us one more song?
I'll play you a song. I'll do another cover song. This is a song by Big and Rich called "Kick My Ass." I think it's appropriate for what we're talking about today.
Sounds
It's
good.
an old country song. Well, I walked into the bar. I pulled out my platinum cup. Ordered 50 long necks for my new friends. Yeah, the barmaid passed them out. But before we shut them down, I held mine up and said, "Here's to us." And this blonde came up to me. She said, "That was awful sweet." Then
I saw her boyfriend as wide as he was tall. He broke up our hug with a 6'5" shove, and I found myself slammed up against the wall. Why does everybody want to kick my ass? I'm just trying to have a little fun. We're all wrong, so you can't just because I kissed prettiest girl and I drive my truck so fast. Why does everybody want to kick my ass? Well, I've never been the kind to walk up and pick a fight. Always been the kind to get along. I throw parties all the time, and they're always on my dime. Drink and dance, smoke until dawn. My style of express sometimes disturbs the peace. The police show up, donuts in my lawn. All that Zeppelin's playing loud, they run off my party crowd, and they cuff my wrist and throw me down the street. Why does everybody want to kick my ass? I'm just trying to have a little fun. We're all wrong, so you can't just because I kiss the prettiest girl and I drive my truck too fast. Why does everybody want to kick my ass?
Awesome, man. Very awesome.
Perfect
Thank you.
song.
Thank you so much for having me today.
Anytime, man. Anytime. Before we actually head out, where can everybody find you? Like where you perform, where you like your Facebook, everything.
Yeah, I'm on Facebook. If you just put in Facebook Joe's Cousin, I'll come up. Or Facebook Joe's Cousin Music. Instagram Joe's Cousin Music. That's about it. I have a Twitter, but I don't tweet. I don't do much of that. And I've got an album on Spotify, Joe's Cousin One Man Band. It's called Raw and Unfiltered, and it's out on Spotify. And I'll probably cut another album with him in the next year or so.
Awesome, man.
Yeah, and then definitely when things go back to normal, listeners, definitely if you're in the North Carolina area, have to go check him out live. It's frustrating because it's like it sounds great online, but it doesn't even do it justice as opposed to when you're actually there. It's like any live music, right? Like any music in general. It's always so much better when you can be there and feel it.
Oh yeah.
And then so you've got another project that you do too, right? So there's Joe's Cousin One Man Band, and there's another one.
I've got another band called Backseat Revival, and that's a 2-piece. It's me and a drummer, and you can find us on Facebook too, Backseat Revival, because all good things started out in the back seat.
Yeah, man.
Well, White, I really do appreciate you coming out again, man. Thanks for coming on the show. Anytime. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's been another show or episode of the Big Jiu-Jitsu Show. I'm Rob.
I'm Randy.
We'll catch you guys next time.